Hello, everyone. My name is William Parker Sr. I'm a millwright and was one of the first settlers in these parts. I was born in England in 1780. In 1840, I came to the Big Woods area northeast of Aurora from Upper Canada, now Ontario. In the Big Woods, I was one of the first to stake a claim. My wife had died a few years before, and I was joined by my adult children. After I moved to Oswego, I lived with my son, George, his family, and hired hands. As a millwright, I built the mills that ground the wheat and corn grown on local farms into flour. I was a mechanic and set up the machinery. I also built sawmills, creating the lumber that literally built the Fox Valley. I was sort of a combination realtor, developer, builder, and industrialist. Two of my boys, both born in Canada, William Jr. and George, were also millers and operated my mills. In 1852, I bought Nathaniel Rising's mills, both the grist mill and the sawmill, and the town Rising had laid out, called Troy, north of Oswego. The town of Troy was eventually absorbed into the village. But let's back up a bit. The grist mill and dam were originally built by Merritt Clark, who decided a mill to produce flour might be a good venture. In 1836, along with Levi Gorton and William Wormley, he built a dam made of logs across the Fox River, just north of the brand new village of Oswego. Clark ground flour at his mill located on the west bank of the river. Soon after, Clark sold his business and his claim to Levi Gorton and his brother, Darwin, who built a better mill with real millstones and a better dam. The Gortons owned the mill and dam until selling it to Nathaniel Rising in 1840. A sawmill on the east bank of the river was added about that same time. At the time I bought the grist and sawmills in 1852, I moved to Oswego. The sawmill was on the east bank of the Fox River, where Troy Park is now. The grist mill was on the west side of the river in what is now called Millstone Park. The two mills were connected by the dam, which provided the water power to run both the mills. Dams like mine were constructed by first building a series of open timber frames called cribs on land. They were then pulled into the river by oxen or teams of horses and staked to the bottom of the river with hand-forged iron stakes, about 2 inches square and 3 or so feet long. The timber cribs are then filled with rocks and rubble to create the dam. The downstream side of the dams of that era were generally sloped and covered with thick timbers. There were no floodgates, just a timber and rock-rubble wall across the river. I significantly improved the mill races at the dam that ran through the basements of the two mills. A mill race is a channel carrying swift current of water to drive a water wheel. The Great Flood of 1857 was the most destructive flood known on the Fox River in the 19th century. 3 very heavy rainfalls on February 5th, 6th, and 7th, when the snow was nearly 2 feet deep, was the immediate cause of the rise of water in the Fox River. The river was a raging torrent. The bridge was washed away. A whole lumber yard floated downstream. My sawmill at the east end of the dam also floated downstream. My flour mill was seriously damaged, even though it was on higher ground on the west side of the river. The dam was washed out, and I had suffered a $3,000 loss. And it was a lot of money at the time. Too much money. But I immediately rebuilt the dam and both mills. I devised a new water wheel and patented it. Water wheels were used to power the mills of the period. My new wheel was a turbine-type wheel that laid down horizontally instead of standing up vertically like the wheels we normally think of being used in mills. Because the Fox River had relatively little fall, horizontal turbine and tub wheels were favored. Turbines were also more powerful than their vertical overshot wheels, and made more efficient use of water power. Trouble began when a millwright in Aurora, Charles Hoyt, infringed on my patent. In June 1849, I sued Hoyt for infringement on my patent. The trial was held down in the state capital, Springfield. The jury found in my favor, but Hoyt moved for a new trial, and the motion was granted. Prior to the second trial, Hoyt's attorney was smart enough to get the case moved to the federal court in Chicago. The trial engaged the court for 14 days. It was finally disposed of in the evening of July 24th, 1850, when the jury found for Hoyt. I moved for a new trial, and the court granted the motion. I later decided not to pursue the case. It was taking too much time and costing far too much money. If you'd like to learn more about the Parker Mills and Dam, I invite you to visit Troy Park on North Adams Street on the east side of the Fox River. Near the river is a large concrete circle on the ground. The millstone I used to grind flour was just that size. An information board gives the timeline of the mills, as well as photos of the mills, furniture factory, and dam. When the Fox River is low, you may be able to see remnants of the mill race, and even some of the timbers from the old dam. And across the river, you'll find Millstone Park, at the end of Mill Road, which can be entered off Route 31. If you take the grass trail on your right as you enter the park, and walk over the stones and tree roots, you will come to the remains of the grist mill. There are also some remains on the right side of the walking path. Stop by sometime. I'll try to say hello. I'm so proud to be part of the early history of the village of Oswego. And now, I bid you good evening, Oswegoland.